sleep. I don't know if it is my fault and how I can solve this problem.
Ακόμα και σήμερα που σας μιλάω δεν έχω πάρει τα φάρμακά μου. Δεν μπορώ να ζήσω χωρίς αυτά.
Where middle-class families rely on charity to feed their children.
Μερικές φορές σκέφτομαι ότι καλύτερα να πεθάνω.
Where fear of immigration is being stoked by the far right.
I'm scared. They hit me, they pinch.
Who are they?
Pakistan.
The election result may have saved the euro for now.
This is a victory for all Europe.
But can the Greeks trust their leaders to get it right this time?
Those who have brought us to where we are today cannot possibly be the visionaries of tomorrow.
If not, how much longer will the people's patience hold out?
We have nothing. No jobs, no work. We have to rise up and fight.
In the run-up to the June election, I went to Greece to find out how the people are coping with a crisis that threatens to destroy their once comfortable existence. I've been coming here for the past 20 years, ever since my son Christopher moved here.
Hi, Dad.
Back in the days when life was good.
All right.
We've seen this country change almost beyond recognition.
That's for rent, that's for rent, has gone out of business. Half of them are empty, or
Are they?
They're for rent.
Since joining the euro 12 years ago, Greece has enjoyed the most spectacular boom. It's now suffering from an even more spectacular bust.
It's just decimated.
Some of the fruits of the wild and unchecked optimism created by that boom are still evident, at least on a superficial level. That's because the rich have held on to their wealth, and some are very rich indeed. It's the rest who've suffered, especially over the past 4 years. Their political leaders had delivered the seductive message that they could have it all without too much effort, and they believed them. It was William Beveridge who identified the 5 giant evils that threaten a nation: want, disease, squalor, idleness, ignorance. That was 70 years ago, and that nation was Great Britain. Those same giant evils threaten this nation today. When Christopher came here to work in a brand new orchestra in the early 90s, it seemed those giants had been slain.
So, Amy, you're going to tell me about the show.
How much more enticing for a young man was the prospect of the good life in the sun,
Wow.
with a guaranteed job, than dowdy old Britain still recovering from recession. Now he and his wife Peppy fear for the future of their young family. His salary has been slashed, and the orchestra is fighting to survive. She works as a lawyer, but never knows which clients will pay and which won't. Things were still good when we all decided 8 years ago to build a house in the Peloponnese. But now when I return and catch up with old friends,
Hey, Tasos.
Oh, hello.
Good to see you.
the mood has changed. My neighbours know what's to blame.
Here in Greece, the last 30 years, the half of the people go to live in Athens. Easy life with easy money. So we stop to product and to export.
So it's your fault, not the fault of the Germans, it's not the fault of...
No, we stop to think like Greeks. We want to do now holidays all the year, like the tourists. We easy work, like this.
What has to be done to get Greece out of trouble?
The problem in Greece, we need job. We need to work, to pay tax. You understand me? We have very, very big problem.
And are you worried?
I work too much. Very, definitely. It's a very big problem.
Before Greece joined the European Union, 17% of its people worked in farming and fishing. Now it's 3%. Exports have fallen, imports have risen. The population of Athens has doubled in 2 generations, and the country has forgotten it has to earn its keep. My neighbour Nikos has to support 2 grown-up children in Athens because they're unemployed. For most of his life, he was a ship's engineer. He built up a good pension. He was enjoying his retirement when I first met him. Now he's struggling. Once he fished for the pleasure of it. Now it's from need.
Εγώ ταξίδευα 35 χρόνια στα καράβια.
I was on the ships for 35 years to earn a pension I could live on. I got about 1,000 euros a month and I had a good life.
Τώρα όμως μου κόβει με 300
Now they've cut my pension by 300 euros. I have 2 children in Athens. Don't they need to eat? They are now unemployed.
Δεν θέλουν νερό, δεν θέλουν αυτά. Είναι άνεργοι.
How are you managing to find the money?
Τι να το κάνω. Δεν μπορώ.
I couldn't manage. I bought that little boat to catch fish to eat. How will I live?
Πώς θα ζήσω εγώ εδώ πέρα.
Nikos is not alone. On average, pensions have been cut by 30%. It's estimated that 40% of Greeks could soon be living in poverty. Imagine that in Britain, 24 million people on the breadline.
Greek culture, classic literature, is suffused with morality tales, and the most famous of them all, of course, King Midas, whose one great wish was that everything he touched should turn to gold. And as every other school child knows, it worked brilliantly for a while, and then he came to grief.
In so many ways, the story of Greece is a modern morality tale. This small country could have had a modestly prosperous economy, but in its desperation to join the euro, Greece cooked the books, and in its thirst to expand, the EU turned a blind eye. When all that cheap borrowing was thrust at them, the Greeks grabbed it and spent it. But when the bills started coming in, they couldn't pay. Greece is a country that knows about suffering. The Nazi occupation was perhaps the most brutal in Europe. At least 200,000 people starved to death. Many more were murdered. And with the Allied victory, there came not peace, but savage civil war. Nationalist forces, supported by the Allies, defeated the communists, but then, after 2 decades, the army took over. A ruthless military dictatorship ruled until 1974, when the people overthrew the generals and opted for democracy. And now there is a new enemy. Austerity does not pick and choose its victims. You sense that some people are beginning to lose the will to fight, but not all.
Something quite extraordinary is happening here. All over the country, volunteer organizations are springing up to help the people in the most desperate need, stepping in where the state has failed.
This may look like any other small corner shop, but it's not. Its goods are given away to families who can't afford even the basic necessities. Melina Tezaki was only 14 when she told her mother Ruby she should set up a charity to help the most needy. That was 4 years ago.
Today, they are inscribed 4,500 people. Every day, we have about 60 or 70 families in need.
New families.
New families.
Asking for your help.
Yes, that's a bad surprise.
In a sense, I suppose, there is a kind of citizens' army being formed here of volunteers who are saying, states let us down, so we will get together and do it ourselves.
When your house is in fire, you don't stay desperate. You do something, and that's what we do.
Ruby's operation expands by the day. It has to. Unemployment in Greece is now at 20%. Benefits now stop after a year. More and more once middle-class families are falling into poverty. This apartment is home to a bookkeeper who's been unemployed since her firm went bust. Her husband's a builder who's had hardly any work in the past 2 years. They're thousands of euros in debt. Were it not for the charity, their 3 children would go hungry. Moments of fun like this are rare, but the help is not just welcome, it's essential.
You have small children. How important is all of this to you? How would you manage without all of this?
Δεν ξέρω. Είναι πολύ σημαντικό.
I don't know, because we're going through a tough
Πάρα
time.
πολύ δύσκολα.
My husband's out of work. I'm out of work. We only have my mother's pension of 400 euros a month.
300 ευρώ. Δεν φτάνουνε.
It's not enough.
Σήμερα ήταν μία από τις μέρες.
Today, I had no food to cook. I didn't know how I was going to feed the children.
Να φτιάξω για φαΐ για να φάνε τα παιδιά. Είναι
It's very hard.
δύσκολο.
What is the worst thing about being as poor as you are now?
Δεν μπορώ να προσφέρω κάτι στα παιδιά μου.
It's put a strain on the relationship with my husband. We're like two
Μας
strangers.
έχει κάνει σαν να είμαστε ξένοι. Δεν ξέρω.
I don't know.
Μερικές φορές σκέφτομαι ότι καλύτερα να πεθάνω.
Τη δικτακτορία θυμάμαι.
I remember life under the generals. This is worse.
Δεν είναι ωραία αυτή.
These are not good times to live in.
Δεν έχει δουλειά.
Before there was work, times were different.
Υπήρχανε, δουλεύανε, δεν ξέρω.
Sometimes Maria has to send her children to school without food, and Greece doesn't do free school dinners. In the poorest areas, teachers talk of children fainting in the classroom because they're not getting enough to eat. But it's when children get sick that the real horror of the spending cuts kicks in. Opposite this children's hospital, Konstantina Gavrou runs a pharmacy, but the national fund which supplies pharmacists is failing, and they're losing the battle to buy the drugs the patients desperately need.
It really is the case that that children's hospital, just on the other side of the square from here, there are parents who are being given drugs for their children with cancer, and they have to share them with other parents whose children have cancer.
Τα παιδάκια απέναντι οι γονείς.
The parents of these children across the street open a packet of medication and just hand out pills. It's not candy, it's medicine.
Ότι το μόνο που
Now I blame myself. I don't actually serve the people. I just add to their misery.
How will this problem be resolved? Because the Greek government cannot allow many people to die because they don't get the drugs, surely.
Πρέπει να αναλογιστούμε ότι
We are paying large interest payments while children at school don't have books. And now there are no medicines. Something is not right.
κάτι λάθος έχει γίνει.
What effect does this have on you as somebody who's been a pharmacist for some years now, made your life as a pharmacist?
Actually this, I can tell it in English. I cannot sleep. During the night, I'm feeling terrible. I don't know if it is my fault and how I can solve this problem. But when I wake up in the morning, I realize that this is not from me, but I have to find a solution as a citizen.